Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book Services. Today I'm joined by Doug Grant, who is a Vice President and COO at the Oppenheimer Group, and he's also a board member of the Center for Produce Safety and chairman of the Center for Produce Safety's Knowledge Transfer Task Force. And Doug is kind of in charge of doing monthly columns for the industry. And the January column was a really good one. And I think it's really nice at the beginning of the year to look forward to what CPS has on tap this year. And one of the things that you have mentioned is that the produce industry is starting to take CPS research very seriously and start to allocate their own food safety budgets based on some of the findings that CPS has come up with. So I think that's really positive for the industry. And Doug, maybe you could talk about an example or two that you're looking forward to this year that you think would fall into that category.
Sure. Yeah, I could talk about a couple of areas there, Greg. I think most importantly, as you mentioned, that companies really look to CPS to see how best they should manage their food safety programs. What tweaks do they need to make to it? You know, research findings can have a big impact on the resources that companies have that they put towards food safety and the priorities that they place on food safety. So I'll give you a couple examples here that are starting up. One of them by Dr. Deng is looking at the sanitizer tolerances for Listeria monocytogenes, and it's an interesting one because companies are putting a lot of money into sanitizers in terms of their SSOPs, and is it really effective what they're doing? Are they using the right levels of sanitizers? Do they have the right duration of the sanitizers? And FDA, for example, recommends rotating sanitizers with the ready-to-eat products, which our industries of course, all involved with. So the question is, which ones are effective, and does Listeria develop a tolerance, to sanitizers, right? So that's some really interesting, findings right there. Another one would be the new egg water treatments that have been issued by the Leafy Greens Marketing Association. Any product that's harvested within 21 days needs to have a water chemical treatment on it. So an interesting study by China Rock starting up now is looking at the effectiveness of different chemicals, whether it's chlorine, peroxyacetic acid, or even ultraviolet light, to see which one is the most effective, or their combinations, and so forth. So that's an interesting one. So there's a couple examples that I can give you. Another one that's starting up right now is Dr. Laurel Dunn looking at the vented product in distribution centers. The FDA has come out with concern that they have around vented product, and everyone in the industry thinks that a regular distribution center with where you're really not touching the fruit, you're just receiving, holding, and shipping it, really has minimal risk associated with contamination. I mean, you're not really touching it or cutting it, that type of thing. So the findings could be quite interesting. Not all distribution centers are the same. They range significantly. Depends on location, sophistication. Are they going into a warm environment initially when they're unloaded to a cold environment? But other than just a regular sanitation schedule, not many people really understand that there could be a contamination issue there. So the findings could be significant for the industry on that one, whatever the results come out of that study as well. There's a couple of examples that CPS researchers are working on that could have some pretty profound implications for the industry.
And what kind of timelines are we looking at before we see some results of these?
They're probably a couple years before the final projects are completed, but often these projects have interim results. So you'll get a pretty good feel for how these projects are going. Often, and that's a great reason to go to the Center for Produce Safety Symposium in La Jolla, California in June, because this is where scientists will be giving interim reports on where these projects are going. So even though it might not be the final report, you should still get a pretty good indicator on where the outcomes may be occurring. So that's just two examples. There's many more projects like these that could really affect companies and in terms of the resources and priorities they're putting on food safety and the amounts they're spending and the resources they're putting into it.
Yeah, I noticed in the January column, George Nikolic with Grow and Farming gave a couple of good examples of how his company is already putting some of these into practice and how it's starting to pay off.
Yeah, exactly. And they have an amazing operation in Zero One Farms. When they can pack up to 100,000 cartons a day, yet they still make sure they have the right time for their sanitation crews to go in and do a proper cleaning and sanitation and spare no resources. I love George's final remark there that anything done with food safety must have the end consumer in mind, and all of us have to have that in anything we do around food safety. And so, impressive to George, the work that he's done. He's also on this CPS technical committee. So we have a good man in there, working hard for the industry on CPS research.
Absolutely. And we talked with him on one of these videos last year. And Doug, I appreciate your time today and look forward to working with you and CPS on and doing some of these videos for the produce industry throughout the year, throughout 2020.
Great. I'm really keen to continue on the monthly articles. I'll be focusing more on future events happening, the projects that are underway that the industry could see some real benefit out of going forward. So I'm happy to continue working with you, Greg, and say thanks so much for the interview.
All right. Great, Doug.